Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Art of Resilience. My name is Mitchell Lingard. We have a very, very special guest here. He is the winner of the Order of Australia medal. He is an author of The Last Showman. He currently runs, owns and operates the world's last travelling boxing tent. And he is no other than Fred Brophy. Fred, thanks for joining us.
Good on you, Mohegan. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's good to talk to people.
Absolutely. Fred, mate, it's a real pleasure having you on here. I've been involved with you for about 8 years now. And, mate, some of the stories, some of the things that we've done together, some of the laughs that we've had, it's just been an exceptional experience for myself. I've anchored onto it as a young bloke, coming off, being addicted to drugs and stuff like that. And I came down to Cannon Hill one night and you picked me out of the crowd to fight. And I did a pretty good job, I thought. And then you actually invited me to then come and box with you. And, the rest has kind of been history since then. But it was a really good anchor for me at the time because I needed something like that. And it made me, have to show up and have to be ready to fight and perform. And this podcast is all about the art of resilience and how to come back from adversity and things like that. And I just want to know about your life, Fred. So can you tell us where you grew up?
Well, I grew up on the showgrounds, travelling around Australia. I went to school everywhere I went to. Because my family, I said I'm 4 generations in show business, and to try and get an education, I wanted to go to school. So every town I used to go to school, and I had to go and start myself. And I grew up with people like Slim Dusty, Chad Morgan, Ricky and Tammy, the Lagarde twins, the half man, half woman, the pygmies, the tattooed pig, the pig with the golden tooth, the snake shows, the striptease shows, and all those sort of things I grew up with. So it was great to be a young kid around, and we had all the merry-go-rounds, we had the fairy floss, we had the toffee apples, we had the Dagwood dogs, and of course when show day was on, we just went around and went on all the rides because we were showman's sons, and that was a good old days. And went into all the tent shows, the Mirror Maze, all of them, the whole lot of them, because we didn't have to pay because we're show kids. And of course the boxing tent, we used to go in there, and I used to go in there, and we used to have to fight before the big ones, like you guys used to get in there. And us young kids, about 5 or 6, we used to have a fight, and there was no winners. And at the end of it, they'd throw the pennies and halfpennies on the mat, and we would always share it, but no one ever won. I didn't realise it until later on. I asked my uncle and my cousin Sandy and Selby Moore and Alan Moore and Paul Moore. I said, now when am I ever going to win? And they said, one day when you get old enough. And then the money we used to get, they used to get the pound a fight. And we'd usually get about £1.50 a fight, and we'd go out the back and split it up.
Right.
And then after the fights, we'd go out there and they taught me how to play poker.
At what age was this, Fred?
When I was about 6.
Right.
And then they taught me how to play poker. They took all my money back off me. I started crying, and I went out the front and waited for them to start again so I can get up and have another fight to earn some more money so I can go back and play poker. And at the time, I didn't realise, but they was teaching me how to fight. And I was the first bloke up on the board. And and that's how I got on. And I just loved it. I was very passionate about boxing. All my brothers and sisters are in the business too, but they've all got circuses and games and rides and all that. But I love the boxing tent. And I was the only bloke to keep doing it. And I love it. I'm very passionate. All I've ever wanted to do is have a boxing tent.
How long have you been running it for now, Fred?
I think I was about 2021 when I took it. I went out by myself, Mount Gambier, yeah.
Is that what your first show was, Mount Gambier?
Yeah, and Slim Dusty was there. Oh, not Slim Dusty, sorry, Chad Morgan.
Okay.
He was doing a thing down in the town hall, and he came up and he said, Freddie said, I'll referee the first fight you had. So I got up on the board. Chad Morgan got up with me at the Mount Gambier show, and we went in. And the very first fight, Chad Morgan was out the back, and he had a few, in those days he used to drink, and he had a few ports. And he said, I'll referee the fights, because he wasn't singing that night, he's singing the next night.
Right.
And he had a fire out the back, he had a few ports got up and got in and Chad Morgan was on the board, and we got quite a few people in. It was my first time on the board of Frukin. We went in and Chad Morgan was in the ring and these blokes was going to fight each other, and I'm there and Chad Morgan's there with his guitar, and the blokes was more worried about getting hit with his guitar because he kept getting in between of them. And it was pretty hilarious actually. It was good.
Yeah, no, that's
So they're the sort of people that I grew up with, and the monkeys and all that sort of stuff, the baboons, and I was pretty lucky in those days because not many kids could do that, and we did, and it was Slim Dusty as well. So yeah, it's sort of in my blood, and all I've ever wanted to do is have a boxing tent. So I'm a very lucky person because I've achieved it, and I've got one now. So that's the last one left, and I'm still going.
Yeah, you sure know how to bring in a crowd. I mean, like, you don't advertise; it's all word of mouth. People travel from all over just to have a fight. Like, actually, one of my mates, he says to me, "You're the only bloke I know who drives to the middle of the desert to have a fight." You know.
And he doesn't get pinched for fighting, and he gets paid if he wins. And I'll tell you what, and you know as well as I do, I always tell the people that get up there, if you don't like the show, I'll give you your money back. And then I say, listen, if you're going to have a fight, mate, you've come from New South Wales, and they come from over the border because we don't go down there anymore, Victoria and that. And
how come we don't go down to Victoria and that?
I'll tell you that in a minute.
All right.
Because of the politicians and the bureaucrats. And so anyway, I always tell the challengers, mate, if you win, you get $30 a minute if you win. If you draw, you get nothing, but I'm a very good bloke these days and I feel passionate about it. So I said, I'm going to give you something. If you lose, you get the experience. And that's what we do.
Fred, what's it been like, you know, been on the road? I mean, you've travelled, you've seen pretty much Australia backwards three times. You know, you've
more. I've been around more than that.
You've been to, is it Thursday Island? You had a show on there once?
Been to Thursday Island, I've been to Mornington Island, I've been to, was it the Stradbroke Island, I've been to the other island just out from Townsville. What's the name of that one? I went up to Gove, went out to, well, done all the missions and everything. Palm Island, went over there twice as a matter of fact. And they're pretty tough over there as a matter of fact.
The tent's going to be in Burketown this year as well.
I'm going back up to Burketown again this year, and which is going to be good. And of course we're going out to the, I haven't been to the Baduri, the town of Baduri for their
camel races.
Yeah, for a long time. I must be about nearly 25 years since I've been there, and I've worked down at the racetrack. I've been there a couple of times, and I worked down at Jimmy Smith's hotel, and that's the Baduri Hotel. And, but I'm going back out this year because they've got the camel races out there and they've got the pig races, so I've never really worked at a pig race before, well, I've worked at camel races before at Bullion and that, but so I thought, oh, it's great, and all my mates that run it and I haven't seen them for years, so we're going out there. That should be a real big weekend. Yeah.
Fred, I've been on the trip with you for about, it's nearly 8 years now.
Yeah. You've only got another 10 to go before you get a belt.
Right. Another 100 fights, we'll get closer.
Yeah, another 100 fights, yeah. You'll be right.
Yeah. Fred, you've got a really interesting bunch of people that support you, travel with you.
Yes.
I mean, from all walks of life.
Yes.
I've never seen a man have so many friends wherever he goes. Everyone wants to shake your hand and you're always smiling.
Well,
you know,
that's what sort of keeps me going because of the people you meet. And I'm lucky because if it wasn't for the people with me and around me like yourself and all the other fighters, and they all really respect each other, it's like a big family. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I am today. And we all appreciate that. My wife Sandy, she's the same. She's the mother, and we're all a big family, and that's the good part about it. And you might have noticed, as you just said before, everywhere we go, they respect us because all those people that own the stations now, their fathers used to own them, and they used to have a fight in the tent when I was young blokes. Now they own the stations out there, all around the Diamantina and that. Up to Birdsville, up to Mount Isa, all them stations out there owned by these young blokes now. Well, not the young, they're about the same age as me.
Yeah.
And now every time when I go there, they bring their ringers in to have a fight and their sons in to have a fight because it's, I suppose it's in the bucket list. It's and will I ever go? You go and ever go, and whether they win or not, that's irrelevant. And that's with everyone that gets up and has a fight. And that's the same with my boys. I mean, you blokes get up there to fight. And it takes a man to get up there and fight. Anyone that I say is fight, you fight. And you don't know who you're going to fight.
Mm.
And that's the same with the locals that get up there. They've got plenty of gut and courage to get up there. So whether they win or lose on either side, that's what I'd call a fair dinkum Australian. And I'm very, very proud of them, and I'm proud of what they do. And that's why a lot of people want to have a go now. They're not worried about if they win or lose, they just want to have a go, because when the boxing tent goes, it's a part of Australia that's going to go, and it belongs to Australia, and I'm the one that's running it for the people of Australia. And whatever they keep supporting it, I'll keep running it.
Absolutely. Fred, like, with most cultures in the world, there's always a rite of passage to become a man. And I feel in the Western culture, we've kind of lost that. And there's a lot of men getting around at the moment, but they're still boys. And they haven't had that transition from boyhood to manhood. You know, and I feel that when a man rocks up, or a boy rocks up to the boxing tent, and he puts his hand up to have a fight, I think he earns the privilege that night to become a man.
Exactly. Once you get up that ladder, I think whether you win or lose, that's what I call a fair dinkum Australian. That's what I call a fair dinkum Australian. And it doesn't make any difference how old he is. And to do that, it takes a man to do that. And you might be just a young lad or something, but when you do that, mate, I reckon you're a man. And a good Australian example. The same as when we went to war. Same as them young blokes went to war before they was 18.
Yeah.
And that's what I call a man. And that's exactly the same as getting up, putting your hand up to fight someone that you've never seen fight before. That means you're a pretty tough man to do.
Yeah, it's really nerve-wracking. Like, I've had a bunch of fights in the tent now. You don't know what you're going to get, who you're going to fight. You know nothing about them, and that is nerve-wracking. I mean, but in the same token, it's bloody exciting as well, isn't it? Like,
well, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Because that's the last of it, and when it goes, you'll never see it again.
Yeah.
So it's an experience, and when people come into the tent, the people that come in to watch, and when they come out, you can go up and ask them, or someone that's never been in, they'll go and say to their mates that never went in, and they'll say, what was it like? And they'll start to tell them, you know, what the show was like. But then they stop because you can't explain it. You cannot explain it unless you went and seen it, because you can't explain it.
Yeah.
Because every show is different. And that's what people say. Well, they start saying it, they say, hang on, no, you've got it. It's hard to explain. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it really is. There's nothing quite like it in Australia, or for the world for that matter.
Yeah.
Fred, what would be, you know, one of the lowest points of your life where you thought, fuck, how am I going to get out of this? You know, and everything hit you like a ton of bricks. And where was that moment when you had that turning point where you thought, okay, I don't want my life to be like this anymore? And what did you do in the process of getting to where you are now in that pinnacle moment?
Well, you know, we used to travel around with my wife and my little kids, you know, like, you know, Freddie and Emerald and Levi and Josie and all them kids, and out in the showground, go to school everywhere. We went out to all the missions down, all out in the deserts, out on off the bitumen, and was living in a little, like a caravan, like a hot dog wagon with a caravan at the back. We had 2 or 3 dogs. We had about 7 or 8 blokes working for us all the time, and my wife was cooking and we was cooking, and we just had to work every week. It didn't make a difference where we was. And whatever we earned that week, it cost us to live until we earned some money the next week. That's why we used to do anywhere. We'd put up on the main street, work, earn a bit of money, and go to the next place. And then I sort of back, and the kids started to go to like school in the grade, you know, 3 and 4. And I said to Sandy, you know what? And Sandy said to me, she said, "What are you going to do, Fred? You know, like, are we going to keep doing this, or we should have a base? Otherwise, we're going to end up with a boxing tent full of holes with broken down fighters, and the kids won't have a good education. What are we going to have to try and do something?" So I said, "Okay, we'll try and buy a house." So I've never lived in a house before. So Sandy said, "Look, we'll apply for a house and we'll get a house or whatever." And I said, "Okay," because I lived in tents all my life or whatever. So we did, and we found a house in Bernadette, the cheapest one we can get. So it was a great thing, because I was going to throw the boxing tent away. I was just sick of doing it and earning no money and that. So anyway, we said, well, we've got a house now, we've got a base, we've got a home, the kids can go to school, And then I'll just go out, and then Sandy will come out with the school holidays out and join me at Birdsville, and then we'll just keep going, and I'll earn enough money to keep paying the house off and sending money home, and that's what we did.
Right.
And that's what kept us together, and then we started to earn money because more people started to come in. So instead of earning like just enough for the next week, we started to earn a bit to keep going. So tables are starting to turn, you know, because I've earned a reputation, been out there for years, and that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Tell us about when you were younger. You got into a bit of a wild fight. Was it in Western Australia?
That was before I had the boxing team.
Yeah, when you were a young fella.
Yeah, in a nightclub. And they was going to kill me, so I thought I'd try and defend myself. Barbecue Jackson was. So when I went outside, they was waiting for me to kill me, and there's about 30 of them out in the street. But anyway, I had to go out. I tried to get out the back, but it was locked, so I had to go out the front. The Barbecue Jack said, well, look, you're in a bit of trouble here, mate, and I want them on a... They're waiting for you, you better go. And I said, well, give us another drink before I go. So he said, yeah, have one. And then they've closed the door and put a chain on it, the bouncer. He said, you've got to go, and they're screaming, they want to belt me. So they've broken the chain, and they've got 3 sets of hands around it, all Aboriginal blokes, most of them. And Barbecue Jack said, you've got to go. I said, well, I'll tell you what, mate, I'll pick up something. And I've tried to pick up a chair and everything was bolted to the floor. So I had nothing. So he said, you're going to have to go. I said, well, mate, can I have another drink? He said, no, mate, you're going to have to go. So I said, well, okay. How am I going to get out the door? They're all coming in and I'm trying to get out. There's about 30 of them pushing at the door. So he said, here, this will even it up. So give me a baseball bat. So I had a strap on it. So I put it on. He said, this will even it up. I said, yeah, it'll give me something. So I said to the bloke, when I do this, I want you to open the door and I'll go. So he did. I said, you ready? He said, yeah, and these hands were like that around the door. So all I'd done was just said, right, when I go this, I want you to open the door. So he said, what are you going to do? I said, I'll show you. So I just got the baseball back and there was 3 sets of hands, so I just broke them with a baseball bat, each one. Broke every finger in there, I just smashed them. And they started screaming and the hands come back. I said, open it up now, because they all started to move back, because they're the 3 troublemakers. So they're screaming, I broke their hands and fingers and thumbs. And I went out swinging this baseball bat, and they had chains and bottles and everything in there into me. I'm out in the main street, and I didn't look real pretty after a while. There's blood coming out of me, and I was hitting them, and I was hitting there, everyone I got my hands on. And I was screaming, and I said, well, I'm just about out, and I'm coming down. They've got me, and I'm coming down. I heard the police siren going. I said, that's the first time I'd love to hear a police siren go. Anyway, I'm down on my knees, and they're just smashing me with everything they can get. Gonna kill me. And this copper's wagon pulled up and back, and they're blowing their whistles, get back, and there's blokes with blood, broken jaws, eyes, and they've opened the back up, and I just jumped straight in the back of their police car. I couldn't get in quick enough, and they've locked the door, and they took me away, and there was about 3 ambulances there, because there was broken jaws, arms, heads, everything. It was a bit of a mess, and that baseball did do a lot. And actually, I still had it on me when I went inside the police wagon, because you couldn't get it off because they had a strap on it. Anyway, they took me down, then they come down to the police station, wanted to kill me down there. And anyway, cut it short, I went to court. I'd never been in trouble before, and I got 3 years for that, for assault and grievously bodily harm. They pinched me.
Wow, was this WA, was it?
It's Perth, yeah.
Perth, wow.
Fremantle. I said, well, what about the blokes that was going to kill me? Look at me face, I didn't look pretty. I had a hair lip.
Yeah, so
Like
self-defense, and then you've ended up going to jail.
I went to jail, I got 3 years over it.
Well, and is
But
that,
there was a lot of those that they didn't go to jail, they went to hospital.
yeah, is that, so you're in jail and...
I was under 18, I was only 17.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's why I've got a record now.
Yeah.
So I haven't got a record because I was a juvenile when I went in, and I'll tell you what, I went to jail for 3 years, and I said I wasn't going back because it taught me a lesson, and there's no one in the world will ever go back after that. I never broke the law after that, so in other words, I haven't got a record. And it did teach me a good lesson. Don't break the law, like yourself. If you were people, there's a long road, you keep on that road. If you want to take a shortcut, you'll end up going to jail, and that's what nearly happened to you when you want to get on the drugs, mate. There's only one way. You either got to just go clean and get out of it, or you'll end up dead. You're lucky you got out.
Yeah, that's
And,
right.
Mate, I just can't understand people on drugs these days. It's going to kill you. Why would you want to take something that's going to kill you? It's no good, mate. And it's the people you mix with. Keep away from the shit. Shit mixes with shit.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, tell us about when you came to. I'm not too sure the location. You'll tell us about that. But you rocked up to I think it was Queensland, and they said, Fred Brophy, you can't have your boxing tent here. They said you need to get some sort of a permit.
Yeah.
Tell us about that story.
It was a Gundawindi.
Gundawindi.
Yeah, because I got closed down in Sydney at Blacktown, Lithgow. I had all the people at the tent there, and the cop someone said, you can't do that in New South Wales because it's against the law, you've got to have a ring and all that. And I said, well, mate, I'm going back to Queensland. He said, well, you can't work here, the sergeant. I said, that's it, it's finished. And I said, well, okay. And I'd already worked Blacktown the week before. I said, okay, well, I'm going. I said, if you work, you're going to get fined $30,000 or $20,000. And I said, well, I haven't even got enough money to get the fuel. My truck to get to Queensland, so I had to borrow that to get up there. So I had to do that. Went up to Gundawindi and I got over the border and I put the boxing tent up and the copper come down. The local copper come down, he said, all right, he said, he's checking all the permits. He said, where's your permit to work the boxing tent? And I said, well, mate, I haven't got one. I've just come over the border. He's a young, cheeky copper too, and as a matter of fact, he's a bit of an arsehole, as a matter of fact. And I was warned about him. And he said, right. He said, I'm going to tell you something. So get up to that courthouse, he said, and get yourself a permit. He said, otherwise you won't be working. I said, how much the permit cost? He said, I don't know, $18, but get up there now, go and tell them I sent you up and get a permit. And I said, okay, I'm going straight up. So I went up there because you're not supposed to get a permit for a boxing tent. He had a permit for a variety show, not a boxing tent. No one's ever had one except me. So I went up and the local bloke, the bloke behind the counter, they call those blokes in the courthouse. You know, the young blokes, you go and play your fines and all that. The courthouse bloke. You know when you go and pay a fine in the courthouse and that?
I know you're talking
He's
about
a clerk or whatever he was. Clerk of the court. I said, mate, I've just been sent up by the sergeant. He said, oh, I'm not allowed to work down there at the show tomorrow unless I get a permit off you. He said, so he's told me to come and get one off you and I've got to pay you the money for it. I said, yeah, what sort of, what are you working? So he's got his typewriter out. I said, I'm working a boxing tent, Fred Brophy, the boxing tent. He said, put Fred Brophy, boxing tent, you've got a permit. He said, how long you want it for? I said, well, 12 months, that'll do. He said, yeah, you got it for 12 months. So he gave it to me. I went back down and I showed it to the coppers walking around. I said, anyway, he said, that's all right then, you got the permit, that's good. So I kept going, this is all right.
What year was this, Fred?
Oh, that was years and years ago. I just forget. I was only about 21 or something.
Wow.
Anyway, I got it, and then about 3 weeks later, the coppers come and see me. I think I was up at Gympie or somewhere, and he said that you've got a permit from the Justice Department. I said, yeah. He said, well, you're not supposed to. I said, mate, I've got it. I'll just pay. Yeah, but you're not allowed to have one. We don't like you. You're not supposed to have one. And I said, well, I've got one. And they said, look, you've just worked, I think it was Gympie and Maryborough and Gympie. He said, and then I was going to Bundaberg. He said, look, he said, I've been, and this is a detective used to follow the showgrounds up. He said, look, I've been watching you. He said, you're running a good show. He said, and it's stopping a lot of arguments. He said, look, he said, I've told him we'll see how he goes by the time he gets to Cairns. If you haven't done any trouble, he said, we'll review it. I said, okay. So we went right up to Cairns and we fought everyone and there was no trouble on the showgrounds. It was good. And then the copper went back and told him, no, Brophy's running a good tent. So they said, oh, let him keep the permit. So that's how I got it, yeah.
There you go, Fred Brophy's bringing order to various towns as he travels through them.
Crowd control.
Crowd control.
Yeah.
When you go to a town, do you often get, you know, the tough guys turning up and...
Oh, they come down all the time, but I like all the bouncers especially. I like the blokes that belt their wives and they're the ones we like.
Yeah, they're the ones we like.
Oh, I love them.
As a matter of fact, a lady contacted me on social media after we fought at Burnett Heads in 2019, and she said, thank you so much for bashing up my ex-partner. He used to bash me while I was pregnant and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, they're bad, yeah, that's good.
And I said, if I had known that, I would have given him more of a touch-up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, no, it's excellent. And look, I mean, this is the last travelling boxing tent in the world. Fred Brophy is here with us. Fred, any final words just to pass on to somebody that might be going through a hard time? What would be your words of advice to them?
Hard time? Well, what sort of a hard time?
Well, anyone that's sort of struggling with things in their life, you know, and they sort of they get depressed or they're anxious,
Well,
they're stuck in a rut.
Well, I can understand that, Mohegan. Now, what you've got to do, that's quite simple. And a lot of people are in that situation. They're down in the dumps, and their missus have left them, or there's women that their husbands have left them, and they don't know what to do. They've got children and all that. They're depressed. They want to drink and they want to do that, and they don't know. They think it's the end of the world. Well, it's not the end of the world. What you've got to know is very, very good advice. You could have something on your mind to change all that, and the best thing to do is to go up to your local gym and tell them what's going on, and they'll take you in. They're like, I suppose you could call them guardians and people that sort of help you out. You can have a talk to, and they'll teach you a bit of exercise and that, and they'll put you on the right track, and then they'll give you something else to think about and something else to do instead of being depressed. Because their mentors were the same as yourself. You teach people on that. Because if you've got nothing to do, sit home and just start drinking and smoking and that and worrying about it, it's no good for you, it's no good for your children, it's no good for your partner, it's no good for anyone. Get out, go up and meet someone. You'll meet a lot of different people if you go to a gym. It's the best place and it's good exercise, and you'll find that you'll get a different outlook on life. That's my opinion. It's the best thing, best medicine for anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you'll meet good people.
Yeah, that's truly in itself the art of resilience. It's being able to overcome what you're going through and keep marching forward.
And talk about it.
Yeah.
And talk about it to your trainer and the people around the gym and all that. And there's other people that's been in the same situation. And now they've got a different outlook on life and that, and instead of taking the corners, they'll just go and take a straight road.
Yeah, friends for life through exercise and fitness and martial arts, boxing.
It doesn't make a difference whether it's wrestling, martial arts, boxing. It's great for you, and you'll meet people, and it gives you a different outlook on life, and it makes you someone. It makes you a person, and instead of thinking you're a nobody. Well, everyone's someone. You just got to find where it is, and that's a good place to find it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fred, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today, and let's go and have a cold one, shall we?
I think that's a great idea, and just everyone hang in, and if you've got a problem, go to your nearest gym. Cheers.
Excellent.